Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It is Tuesday night. It is just after 9 p.m. Eastern. I guess I should say Eastern time, not daylight savings. Or actually, no, I do want to say daylight savings. I don't even know if that's going to – let's not get into that category.
Eastern daylight savings time.
Eastern daylight savings time. Woo! And this is Behind the Steel Curtain editor Dave Schofield. I don't know if I said that or not. I'm excited. I'm wired. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, but I am ready to talk Pittsburgh Steelers with you all. Where else would you rather be right now? But first, I have to say, with me as always, you've already heard from it once. It's my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going?
Hey, yo.
Oh, yes.
Had to get my shout out there too.
Let's get the shout out now while people are trickling into the
trickling in.
The
That's
live
what
chat.
I figured
yes.
too.
Rest in peace, Razor Ramon, aka Scott Hall.
Actually, believe it or not, he was Scott Hall first before he was Razor Ramon. The first time I ever saw him, he wrestled as Scott Hall. Yeah. He was part of a tag team. It was Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig back in the old AWA.
The AWA. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kurt Hennig. That's right. And then he was Razor Ramon. I always knew him more as Scott Hall. NWO days. Loved that. That was some of my favorite professional wrestling back when I watched professional wrestling. But yes, had to give that shout out there. Let's get into.
Oh, although we should be clear, it was due to his passing.
Yes, due to his passing. I assume when I say, rest in peace, that people would understand that he passed away.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he'd been in rough shape for a while. So, and he'd been fighting some things recently.
I know, but this was real weird. He was in intensive care. They said due to complications from knee surgery.
Yeah. So it was a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, tonight's show, what's interesting is the title of tonight's show. I made it as general as possible because we have to, we need to get our titles to our podcast producer, or if not, we have to take 39 lashes from one Brian Anthony Davis. And because we knew this was going to be another crazy day of the legal tampering period, we left this as a pretty general title. What's next for the Steelers after the initial wave of free agency? In other words, we're going to talk about what the Steelers have done, what they still can do, what's on the horizon, some of this crazy stuff. And this is going to be our typical show. Two brothers talking about the stuff going on with the Steelers. We still haven't, we didn't really talk about this otherwise, so we could talk about it here with you all. And I know we got a super chat. I'll get to it because first we're going to get there. Because it's good. It's a topic of something that we'll talk about here soon.
Yeah.
But first,
we got lots to talk about.
Let's check off a box. We need to spend some time talking about what we always have to talk about as Steelers fans when it comes to free agency. It's always been the biggest talking point with the Steelers when it comes to this. Let's talk about those players that were with the Steelers in 2021 that have now signed with other teams. And we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, no one from the Steelers this past year has gone on and signed somewhere else. I'm still sporting the Juju Smith-Schuster hat because I got to wear it while I can. I did it last year, and then I was able to wear it for another year. There is no one off the table that played with the Steelers last year that means they can't come back for this year. Any thoughts on that, Rich?
Just finding it interesting that nobody's seeing a reason to go out and sign any of what were Steelers last year. I don't know if some of them have priced themselves out of the market. Who knows?
Yeah, and we're going to get to all these signings. We'll briefly go over the ones from yesterday because they were covered a good bit, on the hangover last night, and then we'll focus a little bit more on today's. But we'll hit those up. But what's interesting is there's really only one position where the Steelers had a significant free agent to lose, and they actually had two, and they signed someone at that position. And that was one for today. So maybe we don't have to do these in order, but we'll at least mention, the signing of cornerback Levi Wallace from the, I can't say signing, the agreeing to terms, because nothing can be signed until 4 p.m. on Wednesday. But they agree to terms, or however you want to phrase that the Steelers added a cornerback. I put a question out in our staff Slack channel. I had to rephrase it because Andrew Wilbar kept giving me Dave answers, which was
I know every time you rephrase it, he gave you another Dave answer.
Yeah, it was funny. I actually had to go back and change the original message. I don't know if anyone even caught that I snuck in and did that, but I had to then say the only answers that fit in here are Joe Hayden and Ahkello Witherspoon. And the question ultimately was, I want to go back and read it. Maybe if I can find it, because we've had so much breaking news that it was there, that I said, because of the signing of Wallace, the Steelers do not need to retain blank, but still could retain blank. In other words, with the signing of Wallace, do you really think that the Steelers would have any desire of bringing back both of those corners, Rich?
No, don't.
So the question is, based on who Wallace is and what he plays and how he plays, is there one of those who would then be more likely to move on and one to more likely to bring back? That ultimately was the question that I asked. And the player, the player that moved, that Brian Anthony Davis finally came in and calmed everything down. Because I said the Steelers no longer need to bring back blank, but could still bring back blank with those. Brian Anthony Davis says they no longer need to bring back Joe Hayden, but they could bring back Ahkello Witherspoon. KT Smith jumped in and finally and said that he answered the same as Brian. Do you see it that way? That's how it would play out?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Is it based on play, or is it based on cost? Or is it based on age? Or is it based on a combination of
a combination of those things? Cost,
all of them. Okay.
Cost, age. The other thing I always stop and think about is, like, if we weren't going to try to keep Spoon, why in the world did we trade for him last year, lose a comp pick because of it, and
lose a comp pick,
only play him the second half of the season just to let him walk and not try to get it done?
Because I hate to tell people this, this will be coming out later. The Steelers did, that's more news that we had today. The Steelers did officially get a 4th round comp pick. They have the first pick in the 4th round of comp picks, which would be the 33rd pick of the round, I guess is the best way to say it. From the loss of Bud Dupree. They didn't get a second one because of trading for Ahkello Witherspoon. But when it comes to comp picks for next year, it ain't happening.
Yeah, no.
Just right now, the Steelers are already -4. They would have to lose. They'd have to sign nobody else and lose 5 players that salaries qualified for a compensatory pick. So even if they lose Spoon, it's not like it's going to help them gain a comp pick. It's not. They're not getting one next year. End of story. Don't even worry about it. So there's that.
Which we should have been expecting this coming in, since we were on the higher end of cap space in the league this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we were going to be signing more people than teams
finally
trying to slash cap space.
Exactly. And that's just the way that it's going to go, because all 4 signings were unrestricted free agents. There were no street free agents because they don't count. So that's where the Steelers stand there. We'll come back to the Levi Wallace question. The only reason, or a little bit more about him, because the only reason we brought him up now was because we were talking about players that the Steelers, everyone they could bring back. Everyone else that you think about more of consequence, they brought back Chuks Okorafor. They brought back Montravis Adams. They brought back, or they gave tenders to shocking. I was surprised they tendered all these guys, that they tendered Haskins. We knew that was coming for a while, but that they tendered Spillane and Marcus Allen. So they're each going to cost over $2.5 million this year if they make the team.
Correct.
You were surprised. Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by Marcus Allen.
Yeah. I thought they'd try to sign him for a smaller amount. Maybe do a 2-year deal and have it, maybe combined to come to that much. But that's what they went with. But now I tell you what, if he's not going to be one of the guys that they need to keep, that's a pretty attractive not making the roster player. That's the one thing you got to worry about if you're a player on the fringe, and that is, oh wow, look, you now got a higher tender, but guess what? You might when it comes down to it, if there's a guy that's going to cost less than $1 million and you're 2.5 and you're close, I think it's going to be see you later. Yep. But that's a long way away. That's a September question right now, more than anything. So, but when you look at the other players like Juju Smith-Schuster, the Steelers haven't signed another wide receiver. Terrell Edmonds, the Steelers have not, at the time of this recording, signed another safety.
Right.
So when you're looking at some of those players that are players that could actually even go, some of the bigger end free agents for the Steelers that they could lose, it's not like they've gone out and totally replaced them. They're still, it's still possible. So overall thoughts from yesterday, quick rundown. It was Mitch Trubisky. It was Mason Cole. It was bringing back Chuks Okorafor. We already talked about the restricted free agent tenders. Overall thought from everything with yesterday, with those three, and anything you want to talk about with them, each one of them specifically.
I knew we were going to go try to get a quarterback. Of course, everybody was wanting us to, pull the trigger and make one of those trades, but no way were the Steelers going to give up the house like teams were trying to give up the house to make trades for quarterback. In terms of what was out there free agent wise, I think we got the kind of guy that I think Matt Canada would like to have in there.
Mm-hmm.
Guy is very mobile, does have a strong arm, throws well on the move.
Yeah.
Not actually a great passer out in the pocket.
No, that was his problem.
I know.
Yeah.
But if the plan is to have the quarterback on the move more, then you're playing right to the guy's strengths. So that one made a lot of sense. Cole.
Let me say one other. I'm going to jump in since you're going to go through each of them. I'm going to just come in and say a little something. The thing about Trubisky and the reason I like it so much isn't as much the player, isn't as much everything else, is that the Steelers made a decision to not trade away a bunch of stuff. And they basically got what many believe was the best quarterback in free agency. They decided to do it that way and not give up the draft capital. I like that, and I think it's something that could work. There we go.
So, Cole, I thought was an interesting signing. The biggest thing I want to say about that was congrats to Andrew Wilbar, who nailed that one a couple weeks ago in his free agency look at possible centers.
Yeah.
That the Steelers would maybe go after. And he nailed that one. He was at the top, he was at the top of his list for guys the Steelers would maybe go after. So good job, Andrew.
Yeah. And for me with that one, I talked about it a little bit on the Breaking News podcast Brian Anthony Davis and I did today on Tuesday, which was talking more about the offensive line because we had an offensive lineman today on Tuesday. And I said what Cole does, to me, he increases the floor at the center position. And that is, it's much more known what you can have from him, and it's better than what they had last year. Now, if something happens where Kendrick Green makes a big year 2 jump to where he could actually earn the job, then it's a much more difficult job for him to earn. Look at last year. How many times did I say after the draft, I'm like, I want Kendrick Green to be the center, but I want him to earn it, not get it by default. Did he have to earn it?
No, not really.
It was by default.
It was really by default.
Guess what? This year, if he's going to be the center, dadgummit, he's going to have to earn it. He is. And and some people are like, oh, why you were talking about? I'm like, I'm not counting him out if he can, but he's going to have to be good enough. Isn't that what we want as Steelers fans? And if he's not, then guess what he is? He's the backup for the interior, which isn't a bad place for him to be as a second-year player picked in the 3rd round. That is not a bad place to be. It's just what he got thrown into last year where the Steelers didn't address it enough. So I like the thing with Cole is he's the guy that can play a lot of places, but I do think that he's more suited for center and then guard. Everything good there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
want to say about Chooks?
And then the re-signing of Chooks. Okay. There are a lot of people. What?
Oh, a lot of people.
A lot of people not happy that we re-signed Chooks and that we're paying him what we're paying him. Okay. I have not thought really the past 2 years. I thought Chooks has played a decent right tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I'd put, above average right tackle. Everybody, some people think he's a revolving door. He's not a revolving door. Okay. Some people say, well, he's not a great run blocker. Well, I think he could be a better run blocker if he had a really good run blocking guard next to him.
Yeah. People don't understand how much working with the guy next to you makes a big difference in the offensive line.
Now, what I do wish about Chooks is we could have gotten him for a few million cheaper.
Yeah. That's what everyone flipped out over. They saw that number and they went crazy. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you happened to see this. Did you see my article at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers? I know I had a bunch of them today with breaking news, but it was the one, it was specifically looking at the contract numbers for the players added in free agency. And what I did is I looked at them and I said, how much are they actually counting against the salary cap? There were some people saying, oh, the Steelers just knocked down 20 or 25 million of their cap on the first day. No, they didn't. You know what my estimate was? This was including the restricted free agent signings and the other 12.8.
Yeah, they actually had structured those things very well.
Because not only that, you have to take into account displacement, which you did a great job summing that up last year that I even stole it from my articles. It's the difference. If a guy comes in, it bumps a guy off. You take the difference in their salaries. That's how much it costs above, actually costs against the salary cap. That's what it means by displacement. But when you look at Chooks, and you see that big 29.25, it's a prove-it deal. He's basically got a 1-year prove-it deal. You know how much he's costing on the salary cap for this year? It's not even $4.5 million.
That's what I was gonna say. It's less than $5 million.
Yeah, and when you factor in displacement, how much he took away from their cap space they had, 3.5. 3.5 with the $29 million deal. So the thing is, if he doesn't pan out, he's going to have some dead money next year because of the signing bonus that he had. But then you just don't. He's got base salaries and roster bonuses for next year that the Steelers are going to have to decide on. And if he plays well and they have to pay him, that's a good thing for the Steelers.
Yeah, because if he plays really well, you'd like to see him play really well where he's out playing that contract.
Yeah. Exactly. Or even playing well enough to earn that contract. Yeah. Before we go on, I'm really afraid we're going to lose this, so I got to bring it.
Yeah, you better get him up there.
$5 in the tip jar from Sean Manahan. We'll talk about this a little bit more here as we go. He says his free agent wish list is Miles Jack, Honey Badger, and to re-sign Spoon. That seems very reasonable. Miles Jack, was that this morning he first became available, I think?
Yes.
He was released this morning. The Steelers still haven't cut anybody. Remember that. People were certain they were going to cut people, and they haven't. And you want to know why? They don't need to yet.
Right.
So we'll see if they even do.
Right. So don't be surprised if the Steelers make a free agent signing. You say, oh, my goodness, they just spent all the rest of the cap space they had left. Well, not if they then turn around and cut somebody because they've made an upgrade.
Yeah.
So
there's other things, and there's some people that have been tied to the Steelers, and then they've signed somewhere else and things like that, and so there'll be things that the Steelers still need to do. a lot of people talk about, inside linebacker. You're only bringing in an inside linebacker is if you're not, keeping Joe Schobert, which a lot of people are like, why would you keep Joe Schobert? Well, you keep Joe Schobert if you can redo his deal, but there's no reason. And people are like, well, why is he still on the team right now? Is it really Devin Bush, Robert Spillane, and Marcus Allen and Buddy Johnson? Is that really what you want to have right now when you don't have to cut someone yet? Or do you want to see what you can get first?
Yep.
So I'm not saying that the Steelers are definitely going to keep Schobert, but I'm also not saying they're definitely going to cut him. You're just going to have to, just like all these other ones, we just got to wait and see. So you ready to get into the ones today?
Yes, let's go to today's.
Now, I'm working on my article. I don't have these salary cap numbers for everybody yet because some of these are estimates. Like when I did Mitch Trubisky, I had to estimate how it could possibly fall based on the numbers of what he has overall in the years. I'm going to have to do the same thing with the guys, with some of the guys then for them. But Chooks, we knew exactly what it was. We got the exact figures. So that was really good to know what was going on there. So first things first, the first one that happened, let's go in chronological order. You ready? Montravis Adams.
Yay, get the big guy back in the middle. I thought he played well for us when we grabbed him up last year. He was somebody I really wanted to see because I felt he was our best guy plugging up, taking up bodies in the middle to help stop the run. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's depth there if you get back Alualu and Tuitt, and if something happens with when I say when you get it back, Tyson Alualu is coming back. The only question about Tyson Alualu is it would have been almost a year since he played. He hurt that ankle. He's getting older. Is he still the same guy?
Right.
And if he's not, guess what you got?
Montravis Adams.
Okay, so that's what you have. It was 2 years, $5 million is what's reported. So I'll have to look into some of those numbers a little bit of what that could mean. But that it's not costing any more than $2.5 million on the cap because that's half of that for the 2 years.
Yep.
So more than likely, it's costing probably about $2.
That would be my guess.
You take away the displacement, it's barely going to be over $1 million that it knocks down the cap. I like that signing. So for people that had that, did anybody win? Did anybody get it right? You remember a question from last week?
Oh,
it was the first guy they're going to sign to keep.
Oh, yeah.
Some people did, because what was the answer? Did I get it right?
The answer was Chooks.
No, who signed before Chooks?
Who signed before Chooks?
It was reported to sign before Chooks, although they didn't make it official until today. The first report came Friday afternoon, and I know because I was driving, and the friend that was riding with me to the conference I went to listen to Ben Roethlisberger, we were just pulled out of a gas station. I just checked my phone. 10 seconds later, it's like, oh, Adam Schefter. Is that they signed Miles Killebrew.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't I say Miles Killebrew? Because you took Terrell Edmonds?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I did. So I have to be here and pat myself on the back. Okay, we didn't count Haskins because that was being reported for a long time. So it went Killebrew, then that. But if the answer would have been Chooks, man, no one would have had that one. But that one came along pretty good. But some people had said Adams. So even though he wasn't the first, kudos for those of you that thought he would be anyone that the Steelers are signing before 4 p.m. on Wednesday. That for anyone who guessed those names, very good, very good. So anything else you want to say about Adams? Are you ready to hit? I don't know if it's the big one or not.
To me, it kind of is. I like this one. So.
Yeah. So let's hit the next one. I'm sorry. I'm trying to bring up my article about it to make sure I have some more of the information. Is that the Steelers agreed to terms with offensive lineman James Daniels. 3-year deal, reported at, I have it here somewhere, $26.5 million. That's just a little bit less than Chooks. Don't know if it'll be as team friendly as Chooks. I don't know if he's one of the ones that they actually have his numbers yet. Actually, Over the Cap has his numbers, and they have him coming in just behind Chooks Okorafor with his cap number for this year, 4.1666666. I think I had the right number of sixes. For this year, you take away displacement, you're talking once again less than $3.5 million that of what the salary cap space the Steelers had. So that's the numbers. Tell me what you think.
Oh, I like this guy. Mm-hmm. I do. And, I got to give props to Andrew again. I think he was number 2 on Andrew's list for guards.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Andrew, he's supposed to be on the show next week. So hopefully we could tell him ourselves in person.
Yeah.
About
we'd have had him here tonight, but he's studying for finals.
Yeah, no, now midterms.
Not finals. Midterms.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's studying for midterms, so that's why we had to hold off until next week. So that's good numbers, but when I was talking to Brian about this for the podcast we did earlier, to me, what the reason I'm kind of penciling Daniels in already, somewhere on the line, we just don't know where, is because of the contract.
Oh, the contract's good, but this guy is athletic. This guy is fast. He's tough. Like I like it. I liked it a lot. So
and I'll be honest with you. When I've looked at him, all I've seen is the highlights. So of course, everyone's highlights look really
of course.
Good. Okay. So when you come in, he's played a lot.
But what
he missed part of 2020 because he got put on IR because he tore a pec. But other than that, he was the 19th graded guard according to PFF, and they have him graded higher in the run than the pass.
Yeah, and what I saw in some of those highlights that I like are some things, when you see quick feet from a big guy, just quick fluid movement in the feet.
Yep.
Things like that it's like, okay, that stuff's really hard to teach or learn. That's just one of those things a guy has. And I kind of like what I see. Like I said, I like what I see there. Just the quick ability and the ability to move. I think he was a real solid signing for the Steelers. We were wanting to try to get some upgrade on our offensive line. And the signing yesterday, I thought was okay, in getting us there. And then when you add the one today, it's like, we are spending some of that cap space we have and really trying to solidify that lineup a little more.
Yeah, and something that you got, I don't know if many have thought about it, but this guy, he's 4 years into his career. Who was he blocking for the first 3 years?
Yeah. That would be one Mitch Trubisky.
Well, now here's the question. I got to ask you this one because you said it. He says he goes by either Mitch or Mitchell. It doesn't matter. What are we going to do with? To me, whenever he does something right, that's Mitch. Mitch came through and did it. Mitchell is what we call him when he's in trouble. Mitchell, David, Trubisky. What do you think you're doing trying to throw that pass? So I don't know. So I'm gonna try to keep calling him Mitch for now. But if he gets on my bad side, he's gonna go Mitchell. So, but yeah, he was blocking for Mitch Trubisky. Do you think that had anything to do with it, or really not? I don't know.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it did either. But I haven't heard anything.
Well,
but I wouldn't be shocked if it did.
I'm sure the Steelers looked at it after getting Mitch Trubisky and looking at his tape and what they liked about what they saw from Mitch Trubisky. Tell me they didn't take a minute and look at some of those linemen, especially anybody who was doing that and seeing who they really liked. And I think they liked Daniels and said, you know what? If we want to use Mitch in this way, what we saw from this guy on the line to use Mitch in this way works.
Yeah.
So,
yes. So, some people were saying I'm going to have to call him his full name, even when I'm not mad at him, because, just like it was Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger, it's going to have to be Mitchell David Trubisky. So, The thing that tells me the most about the James Daniels signing, Daniels, got to make sure we add the S to it because James Daniel was the former tight end coach. And I read this in the Breaking News podcast I did with Brian, and it was from one KT Smith from our website, does the film breakdown, does the show with Brian. I lean on him a lot. Already leaned on him once for one of the questions earlier tonight. And that is, he said, this might be his most favorite free agent signing by the Steelers in a long time.
Yeah.
That tells you what he thinks of him. So that's good. But the Steelers weren't done. They finished it off this afternoon. We already mentioned it because we were talking about some of the players that the Steelers haven't lost yet and they could bring back, and that is they signed Levi Brown, cornerback of the Buffalo Bills. Rich, what were your thoughts on that signing?
It took me a little while to get into and look up some more stuff on this guy and try to figure out what he is and where he is. I think, was it Kevin or was it Jeffrey that in there that kind of was like, no, this guy is really a solid number 2 type corner. You know, he's not a number 1 corner. He's more of a number 2 corner, but real solid in cover 2 type schemes.
Yes. He's more of his own guy.
Yep.
Which Andrew didn't like. Andrew hated it.
But the Steelers play a lot of zone, and I'm sorry, as long as Mike Tomlin's the coach, we probably will.
Yeah. And here's what's crazy. Someone said Shaner Mayhem in the live chat said Buffalo fans are mad. You know what Buffalo fans are mad about?
They thought they could have gotten him for the price we paid him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. That's what they're mad about.
Did I say the wrong name? Did I say Levi Wallace? I might have said Brown. Remember, Levi Brown was a lineman back in the day. He was Levi Wallace. If I said the wrong name, I don't know. Someone said I did. I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm going on so little sleep from covering all this free agency stuff. I don't even know. So rewind the tape. We'll see. And if I do, we got to cover that out. Yeah, Levi Wallace. I think I did say Brown. Now that I think about it.
Yep. So get with it. Get with your
Levi.
Producer.
Levi. He was undrafted, but out of Alabama.
Right.
You know, so you know who that means. You know who that means he played with.
Yep.
He was there with one Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yep. Also, Buffalo fans are mad because of the price.
Yeah.
That the Buffalo didn't spend that much to keep him. Kind of like people could have been mad maybe last year with Mike Hilton. But yet he is cheaper than what Mike Hilton was last year. What Mike Hilton got when he went to Cincinnati. So I could really see why Buffalo fans are upset. And we'll see how it works out. I mean, the Steelers have been known to take some players that have played for the Bills and have them do all right. You know, Ross Cockrell was although he eventually got replaced, for someone that was cut by another team that they brought in, he ended up, contributing to the Steelers.
Yes.
Ray McLeod came from the Bills and some players like that. But for me, I don't know who said it in our on staff, but they said this, kind of solidifies the cornerback position some and still leaves open the possibility of the Steelers addressing the position high in the draft. And when you'd still be able to have people to use and get on the field, or bringing back someone that the Steelers wanted to bring back, or signing someone else. So there, you ready for the super chat?
Yeah, we got 2 of them sitting.
Yeah, I saw another one just popped up. That's why I said I better get to it. Sean Manahan, another $5 into the tip jar. Says, do y'all think there's a player we can get in free agency or draft who would be an upgrade over Benny Snell, and should we? In other words, to me, if they're going to bring in a backup running back, I don't see them doing it right away. I see that as somebody that they add later. Like watch right now when the alert comes through on my phone and they just sign a running back, because you're not going to spend a lot of money on it because Najee's the man. But if you got someone else who wants to come in, know their role, know they're going to get some carries, know if there's an injury, they're going to get an opportunity and everything, I could see that. But I see that more as a signing later on. That could even be a signing even after the draft. There's going to be names out there still after the draft that the Steelers could then pick up if that's what they want to do. To me, I could see that more of that move, because I don't think that's what they're focusing on right now. I think they have other things to do. Here we go. Is that another? I thought I missed.
What?
Oh, no, we have two more still. All right. Steel Dog 88, $5 in the tip jar. Thank you. I almost missed you. Says, with the OL signings, do you think this affects Dotson at all? That's a good question. Rich.
No, I don't.
No, and right now, the way I look at it is you've got Dotson, Cole, Daniels, Green. 4 guys, 3 spots.
Yep.
And that's if they don't address it in the draft either, which they could. They don't have to. Isn't that nice now?
Yeah.
Don't have to,
but they could.
But they could.
Yes.
That really good competition. And I said it before. I'm like, oh, if they had to pencil in a depth chart right now, I would be surprised if Dotson was the odd man out because he didn't finish the season last year because he was on IR. And you know how he gets in the Steelers doghouse. So it's hard to say. So here we get another 5 from Sean Manahan. He must have got a tax refund already. Okay, so it's the Steelers need to give me a birthday present tomorrow and sign Miles Jack. That's who he wants. So happy birthday tomorrow, Sean Manahan. We should have started off the show with wishing a very important Ides of March happy birthday to one Michael Petaway Tomlin with the big 5-0 today. Did you know that?
Yes, I think I knew that. Yes.
Coach T, 50 today. So we got to say that. But yeah, also happy birthday there, Sean. And I know, and it's funny because I look at some of these names and they're like, oh, well, the Steelers should bring in this guy. And just because they're a good player. So someone said, I think I responded to a comment on one of our articles today at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers, and said, why are the Steelers not doing this right now? I said, okay, I'll take a stab at answering this. 1, the player has to be interested in coming here. 2, the player has to be interested in working out a deal the way the Steelers work out deals.
Yep.
And 3, there's got to be no other team that's willing to overpay. And if I was a player and I knew and 1 and 2 were still a condition, I'd still be checking number 3 to see if there's someone out there that would overpay for that. So that's what it takes to do all these things. So it just it is what it is. Anything else you want to say overall? Four players that are now compensatory free agents that the Steelers have signed: Mitch Trubisky, Mason Cole, James Daniels, and Levi Wallace. See, I got it right that time. Wallace. Okay. Any final thoughts on them?
No, just, starting to do what we say the Steelers usually like to do, which is get positions filled and then use the draft to look for upgrades and projects. So
yes. So what I'm going to do is right now, first things first, we're going to get to our final question, but I have to make sure that I say we have so much content coming at you both at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and the podcasts. My goodness, lots and lots of shows. We had a recent change to our lineup. It took place today. We moved Jeffrey Benedict's cutting room floor to the AM show and Michael Beck's live mic to the noon show. Basically, it's an East Coast, West Coast thing. With Jeffrey being East Coast, it's easier to get his and ready earlier in the morning than Michael's coming from the West Coast. That's the only reason. But if you were looking for it and wondering why that happened, that's a change that happened there. But we've got the YouTube shows coming, one every day. Hopefully you know the lineup by now. If not, check it out. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your alerts, and you'll know whenever we go live. But if you're only doing the YouTube or Facebook Live, you are definitely missing out on a lot of content on the audio side. Let's ride. If you got to plug it one more time, if you don't listen to the audio only, then you missed Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride on Monday, where he interviewed Levon Kirkland. It was great. You've got to make sure you check that one out. So if you're not someone who normally does the audio, you need to become one of those people. Anywhere you get podcasts, search for Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain, you'll be able to find it. Rich, here's our final question. Got to remind everyone the rules. If you answer early, you will go in timeouts, and we won't do it. And we won't rethink. So we'll try to answer
send until we put the answer in writing.
So I'll put it in writing. We'll tell you when you're free to put it in there because Rich and I have to answer the question, not influenced by your all's opinion, and then we'll bring yours up. So wait for me to say that it's time. So Rich, here's the question tonight. The Steelers, they've added 2 offensive linemen. They've added a quarterback. They've signed one of their own offensive linemen. They've brought in a cornerback. What position on the Steelers is most important for them to fill as we speak right now?
See, I see there's 2. I have a feeling I'm going to say one, and you're going to, I know. I have a feeling I'm going to say one, and you're probably then going to go with the other one.
Do you want me to go first then?
No, that's okay.
Okay, go.
I think they need to fill the safety position opposite Minka.
Yep. That is a high priority, and I get that's why you say that. All right. Sorry, people are all ready going in timeouts. So we say it. I don't know what else to do other than say it every week, and it's just ridiculous. I'll go the other side of the ball. They've got to go wide receiver, whether they bring back somebody or sign someone. Doesn't have to be a super huge name, but they need to add to the wide receiver room. So, and I just hit that send. It's in the live chat for you all. We'll bring them up because people aren't supposed to jump the gun. And here we go. Wow. Christopher, 11, inside linebacker. That's the other one that I thought they might say. Yeah. To me, the reason I don't say that one is they have the players. The question is, do they want to upgrade the players? Correct. To me, wide receiver, safety, they don't have the players.
Correct.
They got to have somebody else. Yep. Okay. Robert Sadler, inside linebacker. Cree says inside linebacker. We'll just say that.
Must be nuts.
He just says defensive back. So that's kind of cheap, but I get what you're saying. Kathy says inside linebacker. Brian Brown says middle linebacker. Okay. Michael O'Malley, there's a good answer. I'm sorry. The reason I don't agree with inside linebacker is that's an upgrade. That's the only reason I say that. Well, the other ones you really need. But Michael O'Malley says safety. Sean Manahan says inside linebacker. Steel Dog 88 says inside linebacker. I'm not asking for players, so I'm not doing it. Russ does say that some people probably say it early just to be funny. Clarence Washington says inside linebacker. Reginald Rivers, inside linebacker. George Teston, I like this answer. He's very specific with it.
Yep.
Slot wide receiver. I like that answer. That's a good one. Okay. Knight Rider 16 says middle linebacker. This one, I'm going to say this one, although we said position. Pinot Bourdon says 7. Need to replace 7. That's a little bit funny. Will Robinson Debo says linebacker, didn't say which one. I assume that's probably inside. Steelers Pittsburgh says safety. Okay. Jay Hanna says ILB. Steve Sepos says inside linebacker. Steve Metzer says wide receiver. John Walter says wide receiver. I already did that name. Did I already do Brian Mizwa? He says middle linebacker. He put names, but I'm not reading them. Okay. Robert Lucky says linebacker. Vinny Vlogs says wide receiver. Greg Schallenberger says inside linebacker. Michael DeTore says inside linebacker. Mark Brusher. I put an N in there. Sorry about that, Mark. Says wide receiver. Sherry Richards says wide receiver. Russ Obenstein says defensive line. I really think they're good there unless if they want to get younger in the draft, then that might be a little bit different. But he might be thinking draft rather than free agency. Maybe he thinks we're done. Mark Tobin says safety. Jerry Hall says, I think that's supposed to be wide receiver. I think because the T's next to the R, I'm gonna take that. CJ Deweezy, something like that. He said specifically strong safety, which would be correct. Pinot Bourdon, I think that was someone I might have put. Did I put him in time? I don't know. That might have been before. It says inside linebacker. Alan Wicker says inside linebacker. James Galloway says 3 votes. Safety. Okay. Robert Lucky says defensive line. Jennifer Prusser says wide receiver. Okay, she threw a name out there, but I'm not going to do that. Rajon 39 says inside linebacker. I'm not going to bring that one up because they listed 2. Jacob Heinrich says strong safety. Todd Faherty says safety.
No, you put a T in there, it doesn't belong.
Fiery. I don't know. Daryl Lalonde says a second running back. James Galloway says wide receiver in the draft. Okay. Tyler W says corner. He still wants another corner, unless he wasn't here to know about the whole Levi Wallace stuff. Kevin Osborne says ILB. Okay, Tyler said, sorry, he clarified. He said a number 1 corner, especially since you talked about him being a number 2.
That's what I thought you might go with when I took safety.
Yeah. BMK says wide receiver. Joseph says cornerback. Eddie Power says cornerback. Wow, we have a lot of these tonight.
We're getting a lot of answers.
Brandon 4569 says ILB. Chatty Me Boy says DTs. Chris Weaver says defensive line. And Devin Logan says defensive line. And Havoc Pleasant says safety. We have 272 people in the live chat, so that's probably why we're getting so much. Now I think some people are just throwing some other things out there just to be crazy. Anthony Wayne Smothers says corner. And Eddie Bailey says inside linebacker. Alex Flores says defensive end. Yeah, I don't know they're going to do that. And, of course, you're always going to get one. LC Menegat says quarterback. Rich, final thoughts to send us out of here for this week as free agency rolls on.
Hey, final thoughts would be like this, okay? We, for the past couple of years, when we have been very cap-strapped, have really heard from folks saying the Steelers have not gotten active enough in free agency. Guess what? The Steelers have gotten more active in free agency. So I hope everyone out there is happy that we've gotten more active in free agency. I know there are folks out there that say, oh, they got this guy. I wish they would have gotten that guy. Okay, I get that. Okay.
Just glad they got a guy.
I'm just be glad they got a guy and be glad that, they're really trying to get some upgrades with where we're going here and try to get this team, I want to say more on the same page. But honestly, what it comes down to over the next, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks through the draft, hang in there. The Steelers still got more stuff they're going to do. And the interesting thing right now that I find most interesting is I have no clue when that's going to be.
Yeah.
Like they could continue this week. We could get more stuff. They could hold off for a little while and then we get some more stuff. It's
guess you're going to have to tune in.
That's right. You got to tune in. You got to stay on your toes because you never know when it's going to kind of suddenly be like, boom, Steelers make a move. So hang in there. Dave, are you coming back next week?
I'm coming back next week.
I'm coming back next week as well. And we're supposed to have Andrew Wilbar with us next week.
Yeah.
And to that I say, can't wait.